I feel like every time Spencer does the countdown for us to kind of move in, I'm thinking of the Janet Jackson video, Rhythm Nation, like 5, 4, 3, 2.
I just think of the 80s.
Because he has bleached skin like his sister, Janet.
No, right. Yeah. Oh, Wayne's World. Yes. All right. Welcome to Let's Talk About Gay Stuff, the podcast where we talk about gay stuff and discuss the week in LGBT history. We are Thomas.
Tony.
Kendall.
And this week we're reviewing the week of July 21st through 27th, and we'll discuss the Boy Scouts, Steve Rubell, and my favorite, J-Lo.
Woo!
All right. So here we are. Let's talk about gay stuff.
Let's talk about gay stuff.
So you guys ready to talk about some gay stuff?
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into the deets, what's going on? Anything fun, reading, watching, happening in your lives?
You know me, not really.
Well, that makes it sound really sad when you put me on the spot like that.
Well,
You're the only exciting one in the group, so
Yeah.
of course we rely on you to be like, what's going on
we're
this
living.
week?
You're the
Well, I take a lot of naps, and my dreams are amazing. Guys, I have so many adventures in my dreams.
What was your dream?
No, I'm kidding.
No.
But
Can you tell us about this? Oh, go ahead. Tell us about your nap. That's how exciting our lives are,
Tell us
Tony.
about your
when
dreams.
we're gonna listen to a story about a nap.
Well, today I had a nap. It was very intense. I didn't even know I was napping. And then my boyfriend, who happens to be here in the audience.
Uh-oh, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
No, his name's not Ben. His name is, he's got two names, Tiny Baby Asian or Pookie Butt. And I think Pookie Butt is on his birth certificate.
Pookie Bat.
Pookie Butt.
Pookie Butt.
All right. Pookie Butt. He is a. What does Pookie Butt do for a living?
He owns a property management company.
Oh, what's it called?
Real Property Management
Heritage. All right. So if you're looking for a property manager, Ben's your guy. You can find him online.
Ben Quinn.
Yeah.
So he called me today, and I was taking a nap.
That was
did
a
he-
that was a
what did
free.
he call you?
We just got him we just gave him a free plug. So good for you. And it wasn't even a butt plug, which is normally what you give him. Hello.
He's had plenty of free plugs.
Up.
So he called me today. I was like, I've been up since I think 6, and at some point, because I got up early, I fall asleep, and then he called me, and I was like, oh the fuck. I always think it's emergency calling. I always think it's like 911 calling me.
Even if he's just calling to be like, hey, what's up?
Remember-
Like I always think it's 911. You have an emergency.
Remember when
And I'm
you-
like, what the emergency?
Remember when you were a flight attendant and you were on call and you'd get a call and like at 5 a.m. and you would say what? Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. It would just startle me.
He would wake up saying those words. Like the phone would ring and he'd be like, here we go. Here we go. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? So yeah.
Well, so I answered the phone, and
Good
he
dream.
said, what are you doing, baby? And I don't like to admit that I take naps while I'm in the moment of napping. It's like in hindsight, you
Like-
can admit naps, but
you're like
not
a
in the
mom.
moment. So he was like, oh,
Cleaning
okay.
the car.
I was like, oh, just looking at the wall and the dog and stuff. He was like, oh, you have Morky there, so you must be really
Napping.
busy looking at your dog. Which he wasn't even, he believed it. That's what he believed. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just looking at her now. She was in another room. But,
That's a lie,
basically, so
because
that's
she
what I
never
did
leaves
today
you.
because I know she didn't leave me. She's so precious. She was under the covers. So that's what I did today. I took a nap and then tried to deny it. And then I felt really guilty because I felt like I lied to Tiny Baby Asian Pookie Butt.
About your nap.
Oh my God, he's in the audience, so he's hearing this for the first time.
Are you just finding out now that he was actually napping?
You couldn't
Not
tell?
surprised.
He's not surprised, though.
This-
Naps are good, though.
This is
Because I
the-
got up so early.
This is our lead-in. No, can you talk about? I mean, that as exciting as that nap story was, can you talk about what you were just showing Tony
Thrilling.
before we got started? What was it?
Rosebud.
Not Rosebud.
Oh, I
No,
came
you're-
across a life-changing YouTube video
that you have been obsessed with.
that I've been obsessed with. It literally is life-changing for me because I feel like I found a woman that understands my philosophy
And what
of life.
what is her name again?
Gita.
Gita. She was
Gita.
amazing.
She's amazing, and I might have stalked her. She lives in Tucson.
How old is Gita? Is Gita like a young woman? Like a
Gita's
yoga?
probably in her late 60s.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, late 50s, early 60s. Forgive me, Gita, if I'm wrong.
amazing hair. Cute.
You should see it now.
Super cute.
90% bangs, but we
Fashion
love her.
sense.
What does Gita do?
Earrings.
So Gita is all about laughing yoga with the ha-ha mantra, which is, this is what you do. And I'm not joking. You think I'm joking, but I honestly live
I know
my
you're
life
not,
this way.
actually.
No, this is the way I live my life. So it's all about like people coming together and that might be stressed and have issues and they can't get it off their mind. My whole philosophy in life is make fun of it, laugh about that shit, try to make it not as serious, but still consider it serious, but don't make it so fragile, because we all make so-called, like, we make things dark, and we make them fragile, and we make them, like, off-topic, and we make secrets. This lady, Gita, who I will now call little tiny baby Gita,
LBG.
Her theory is...
LTBG, yeah. Hey,
so she teaches people, say your name. Like, for instance, she says, my name is Gita. And then you're supposed to laugh. Which is very contagious. And then you say whatever is, like, heavy on your mind. Like, she said, my name is Gita. People laughed. I was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's. And then everybody laughs. And people that watch it online think, like, oh, God, this is awkward, weird, goofy. I look at it a different way. I think, like, it's amazing because you're taking ownership of your pain.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to cry about it?
Well, I feel like no matter
it?
what life throws at you, you make the best of it. You take it lightly. I mean, you know, like, life throws circumstances at you, and it's all about how you deal with it, right?
Oh, yeah. I use my bluntness about stuff that's happened in my life is kind of like I don't want to say filter, but it's an indicator of how, kind of, if I want to be friends with you or not. I'll be completely honest about the shit in my life. So if I say something that's like, oh my God, you're not supposed to say that in public, and they're clutching their pearls and they're all sad and depressed, and really, they really don't care, but they think, oh my God, you're not supposed to say that. I'm like, well then, okay.
See ya. Bye, Felicia.
Well, I mean, it's like, we're not compatible. Because my whole philosophy is, deal with it. Look, you're choosing to keep it a secret and be depressed. Make fun of it. Try to laugh about it. Keep going. And then cry into your own pillow. Yeah.
Well, that got deep. I was just thinking, you know,
Okay, but anyway,
some giggles
Gita.
about Gita, because she says she laughs about it, and then what does she wraps?
Oh
it up.
yeah, and then at the end, everyone's supposed to say, "Very good,
Good,
very
very
good,
good.
yay!"
And that was like Kendall for 24 hours straight. Like every time we had a conversation with him, he was like, "My name is Gita, and I have breast cancer."
It was a 24-hour.
good
When did
life
you discover
changing.
Gita? This week?
Oh, it was a
No,
couple
this is
weeks
about
ago.
2 weeks ago, but
Oh.
it was like life shattering, and then I forgot about her until she was recently brought up.
Because your new obsession is what? What have you been sending Tony and me all day, as well as everybody else?
Oh, the age filter.
But I
Where-
don't look any different with the age filter.
Exactly. That's why I'm not obsessed with it anymore.
I didn't like any of
No,
those
there's
pictures. They
this
were
very
gross.
there's very accurate age filter, and I know it's accurate because
I know it's accurate. I look in the mirror and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God,
that's me.
I look just like my dad.
No, you don't. That was not your dad in those
Who was
pictures.
that?
I don't know. That was some.
Was it
that was
your dad?
That was like your dad if he lived in a trailer park. No offense to our trailer park audience members.
I thought I looked
but-
sexy.
Ugh.
Well, that's because you like old men. Your obsession with Bernie Sanders.
Well, let's
I
ask
know.
Ronald
Pookie
Reagan.
Butt. Was it sexy, Pookie Butt?
Yeah, it was sexy.
He
wow.
thinks it's sexy.
I
So
look at- now look at-
conversation closed.
I look at
what
Ben
else happened this week?
in a new way. Oh yes,
In a nude way.
In a nude way.
Visual, see that.
I know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's basically
Nasty.
I started watching finally Big Little Lies. We finished
Oh, one of my favorites.
finished the first episode or first
First
season.
episode,
First season.
2019.
First season yesterday, so it was good. I liked it.
So good.
I was in
Wait till the
suspense.
second season.
Yeah, that's one with Meryl Streep, huh?
Yes, and she's incredible in it, but she's not the best.
Wait, what
who's
is
the
Big
best?
Little Lies about?
Oh, okay. Kendall.
You don't
Kendall's
live in
better at
Montana anymore.
Kendall's better summarizing these things than I am. I
But
get
mentally, I
long-winded.
can't
All right,
escape.
let me
I'm
think.
still
Big
there.
Little Lies.
In case you didn't notice, guys, I'm very long-winded.
Big Little
so-
Lies is this. First of all, one of the reasons I love it because I'm a very visual, artistic
Fiction
person.
or nonfiction? It's about
Nonfiction.
Okay. Ooh.
Oh, fiction. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Fiction. So
very fiction.
it's takes place in Montecito, California, and it's filmed there. And just the way it's filmed is very like you feel like you're in the moment, which I think has a huge impact on the.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're there locally, you see the hills. It feels very California coast, so you're already like invested. It's not in a studio. But Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, Shailene Woodley, Laura Dern, and then Zoe Kravitz are the people in season 1, and then season 2 is Meryl Streep. But they all have these issues within their own lives, and it culminates in the last episode of how they all connect, and then there's this huge secret that they have to keep that kind of brings them all together because they were not necessarily all friends. It is amazing.
Well, I'm interested.
I don't want to give away too many.
No, I'm interested in season 2 because
Season 2
because
is
the
so
way
good.
season
Meryl
1
Streep
ended
is amazing.
was really good. So who's your favorite?
Laura Dern.
Laura
Dern is the breakout person, and I only knew Laura Dern from Jurassic Park, and she's like, "Okay, girl, would a T-Rex eat her finally, please? We get a T-Rex." But in this one, she's like incredible.
Yeah,
crazy, because she and Reese Witherspoon to me are the breakout ones, because you look at them and you're like, oh my god, I know, and your mind goes to exactly a person that you've met that reminds you of them. You're like, it's so good, like, is this literally who Laura Dern is? Because it's that good. Whereas Nicole Kidman was good at acting, but she went in and out of her Australian accent, which really confused me.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I'm like,
is she supposed to have an Australian
is it going to
accent?
come out that you are from Australia? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because she's an attorney in the show, but anyway, it's great. Watch it.
Yeah, it's good. I honestly, because of the domestic violence, like I cringe. I don't know what it is. Like,
Are you suffering from that?
Enter.
You want to see the bruises?
You don't have to
No,
be suffering. Are you experiencing that?
And requesting it, actually. No, seriously, I don't know. It's something like about it that's very jarring. The first episode that I saw, and there was that violent scene where she gets beat up, and then they have sex after that. Like, that was, to me, like, very. It was too much.
Attractive.
Willingly?
Yeah, it was. They have this.
Like, he beat the shit out of her, and then.
Yeah.
They have this kind of. They view it themselves as twisted. It doesn't have to be twisted if that's your thing or whatever, but he beats her and then he rapes her. I guess it's rape.
And
she's
she
willing,
but
I mean,
it's not rape because she's.
It's not rape, but she likes it rough. Like, you're gonna beat me up, and then you're gonna.
But does she like getting beat up before? She's like, oh,
She doesn't like being beat up. No.
Okay.
No, which is why what makes it
Yeah.
it makes it twisted because it's not
Yeah.
like she's like into that. I mean, yes, she likes it aggressively, I guess, but she gets beat up like.
Anyway, we don't want to
Bruised.
say too much
Yeah.
because we want all you children. It's G-rated, obviously.
Not G-rated. You get to
Take
see
your
her
kids,
boobs
watch it.
and her
yeah.
Oh, woof.
her bum. I guess you saw her
Her
husband's
bum.
her husband's
Are you Australian too?
her husband's penis.
No,
although-
we didn't see that, did we?
Yeah, they showed it because
Ew.
What episode?
she broke it.
What?
Like one of the second to last one. Yeah. We just saw it the other day.
We're going to
Spence and I.
pause, and then we're going to investigate.
But I'm pretty sure it was a prosthetic. But I don't know. It was Alexander Skarsgård, so maybe he does. And it's like, well, if that's what he was
He's
working with.
Skarsgård now.
So yeah, but a great series. It's a little, I don't know. It seems a little excessive in the sense like you have these rich women who are like, with the exception of one or two, but it's just like it's that lifestyle that
It's
I'd like.
not excessive. It's a very white, rich woman. If you're familiar with that lifestyle,
And I guess I'm unfamiliar with that. Like, well, to me,
it's very real. I think to me that's why I like it so much. It's not even campy or over the top.
But it's just something like it's like Friends or Sex in the City. Like I look at those shows now and I'm like, that's just not real life.
Well, you know what? Some of us don't have friends, and some of us don't have Sex
I'm
in the
talking-
City. Okay.
Oh, jeez. Let's talk about those shows. So, anyways, so Tyndall, let's talk about gay stuff. Why don't you lead us into our first topic about Stephen Rubell?
Oh, Stephen Rubell.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, first
Who
of
is
all,
Stephen Rubell?
Okay, well, I just watched this documentary. Ironically, did not know that this anniversary of his death. He died July 25th, 1989, of AIDS. But on Netflix now, if you want to watch about Stephen Rubell's life, he was the co-founder of Studio 54, and it's got this really interesting.
What was Studio 54?
Studio 54 was this probably the most iconic club ever. I can't think of a more like name-checked fantasy club place.
Wait, have you really never heard of Studio 54?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, you're lying,
No,
right?
not.
You have not?
I mean, I know. No, really?
No.
Wait, no, please.
No.
You never saw the movie?
Give us a signal if you feel like you're being...
No, I've not.
What the-
Studio 54?
You didn't have television.
Thank you.
Pookie Butt is sleeping on the couch. He woke up to judge you. Because he's never heard. Pookie Butt, have you heard of Studio 54?
Of course.
He said, of course. You should be ashamed.
He's like, it's
Okay,
the one
but
that
I'm
came
sorry,
after
you know
53.
what? Let's take it back now.
Thank you.
Studio 54 it opened in 1977, and it was the disco nightclub of the 70s, early 80s. It was the first mega club. It was a gay guy, Steve Rubell, who was in the closet most of his life.
And this is where, New York?
This is New York, Manhattan. The reason they call it Studio 54 because it was an actual studio called 54 where they had taped a bunch of like NBC shows that we've heard of. I can't remember them right now off the top of my head. But Steve Rubell went to college with this very attractive, which is unrelated kind of, whatever, Ian Schrager, straight guy. They became very close friends, and they were like, let's open nightclubs. So they opened a few nightclubs, and then they opened Studio 54 in this theater.
Mm-hmm.
And they took out the bottom seats, so you still had that slope, but they kept the upper deck, basically, which was for having sex. Okay.
Oh.
They spent
And doing
$100,000. What made it unique is they spent like $100,000 on lighting. They hired a bunch of Broadway professionals to like make it the lighting interesting, and they kept the stage so that they can have live music. And they did really, really ahead of their time marketing to bring all these people in. Spent a lot of money and time on it, and it became the club. Like, I honestly cannot think of another club more iconic that I've heard of before that. But if you look at these pictures, like Google Studio 54, and you'll find pictures of Liza Minnelli and Bianca Jagger and Andy Warhol and Calvin Klein. And, I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. It's where all the celebrities wanted to go. Well, they did go.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of known for the line outside because the co-owner, Steve Rubell, would stand outside and say he would just randomly pick who could come inside. So it was the first time a club was like, what do you mean I can't just pay a cover and walk in?
It was exclusive.
And no one could figure out, like, okay, what is your rationale?
Did he go off looks or what?
He was a gay man who was playing people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So sometimes he would say, you're never going to get in if you have a beard. And the next time he'd be like, your beard's really hot. I'll let you in. Like, he kept people guessing.
Okay, yeah.
It wound up biting him in the ass because it pissed a lot of people off. But the club was huge, huge, huge. So basically, he comped all the I don't want to say all, because in the documentary, for example, that I watched, he would have these tiers. So if you were Liza Minnelli, you never paid for a drink a day in your life. If you're Halston, Calvin Klein, Bianca Jagger, Mick Jagger, all the A-list people. But if you were like the drummer and the guitar player for Rolling Stones, then you had to pay. But they got their money from charging huge covers from these people begging to be let in, and then for them paying liquor. But there was just like this endless parade of people trying to get in. So they got in trouble. Well, first of all, there was this. The one thing I remember about Studio 54, not the one thing, but a big one, is there was so much drug and sex culture. For one, at the end of the Studio 54 reign of Steve Rubell, he put tarps over all of the upper deck stadium seating up top, so that because there was so much sex going on up there, they wanted to be able to wash it off with a hose.
Ooh.
This is not even a rumor. If you watch the documentary, they're like, yeah, that's exactly why we put black tarps over every single seat. So that kind of gives you an indication of what the setting was.
Yeah.
There were so many drugs, and it wasn't like people were selling drugs necessarily. It's that Steve Rubell himself was saying, here's Coke, take it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Here's whatever the drugs there were back then. There was even this big moon that looked like a face that was mechanical. It would go up and down, and this spoon full of Coke that was like this 5 foot wide spoon of Coke would go into the moon's nose. Like, they were not, in other words, they were not hiding it.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, we're fucking. Yeah, we're doing drugs.
I feel in the 80s, Coke was very
Well, this was,
common,
they opened it in 77.
Yeah.
He actually sold it in 80 when he went to jail. We'll talk about that later.
But did it stay open?
It stayed open until 86.
Oh,
We'll
so it
talk
was just
about
literally early 80s. Okay.
So he created this wild atmosphere that was alive for like max 3 years that he owned. It wasn't even 3 years because he gave an interview because the Manhattan media was all over the fact that, what the hell is this club? This club is amazing. Why are all these famous people? Like, it became the spot.
And they never shut it down or anything.
Well, they eventually shut it down, but he gave an interview where he said, the only people that make more money than we do is the mafia.
Well, I was going to ask, was he connected to the mafia? Or why didn't the police
He was
shut it
not
down?
connected to the mafia, but people were like, well, the feds were like, excuse me, what? Because it doesn't look like you're making that much money. He was illegally skimming. So he would claim a certain amount of cash and pocket most of it. Like, the accounting was all shady. So they weren't paying any taxes. So the feds investigated, and they were like, They raided the place twice, and they found, like, receipts in the ceiling. Like, they hid these receipts in certain places, and they busted them and got him for tax evasion.
Oh, okay.
They busted him. They opened in 77. They busted him in 78. But the trial wasn't until 80.
So he was able to operate for those 2 years?
Yes, but it was such like a... You know, the benefit of that is that they peaked and never had to go downhill. Because what would be sad is if Ian Schrager and Steve Rubell, the owners, opened it, and it would not be as iconic as if it went from huge success to
failure,
this slow bleed out,
yeah,
death. You know, we would not even be talking about Studio 54. Part of the intrigue and part of the reputation they built upon after they got out of jail was the fact that it was this huge place. Like, when they went out, it was at its peak.
Yeah.
So they got busted, got arrested, and got convicted for tax evasion. So all these, all the profits they were making, they were not paying taxes on. So they got 2.5 years each, Ian Schrager, Steve Rubell. It was huge, all over the news. They retained their high celebrity, huge. I mean, gosh, I'm trying to remember all. Lauren Hutton, Cher, the biggest stars. It's like the equivalent of if Madonna and Lady Gaga,
yeah, and I'm sure
and
like
Beyonce,
at the time everybody
like,
went there.
There was
yeah,
no one bigger than the people that went in 1977, 78 to this bar. Diana Ross, like it's
was the place to go.
Yeah.
They remained friends with them. They got convicted. They sold it while they were in prison in 1980. And of course it went downhill. And it eventually closed in 1986. I mean, the heyday was Steve Rubell, Ian Schrager. So they eventually got out. Steve Rubell, they opened another nightclub together, but Steve Rubell was in the closet for most of the time. I mean, he's one of those people, like last week we talked about Barney Frank, to where, yeah, they're out of the closet to certain people, but to the general perception, like it's this dual life to where I'm choosing to be gay around you, but I'm denying it or ignoring it around the rest of the world. He was doing that and got AIDS, or got HIV, I should say, diagnosed with HIV in 1985, and started taking AZT, which had just been approved around that time, as an, I don't know what the term is, HIV suppressant or antiviral medication or whatever. But because he was so addicted to drugs and alcohol, it basically, it wasn't working for him.
Oh, okay.
You know? So he died of AIDS on, let's see, actually, what did he die of? His official cause of death was listed as hepatitis and septic shock complicated by AIDS. And that whole complicated by AIDS thing is important, I think, because if you have AIDS, a cold can kill you.
Right, yeah.
You have no immune system.
Yep.
So a lot of the deaths back then were classified as complicated by AIDS because literally a cold would turn into pneumonia,
Right,
would turn
exactly,
into
yeah.
death because you had no immune system at all.
To fight.
So he died, and he denied up until the end that he had AIDS, but everyone kind of knew, you know. And he had hepatitis too. But even at his funeral, it was a private funeral, and it was attended by like so many of the greats of the time, Bianca Jagger, Calvin Klein. In the documentary that I watched, you can see them like weeping, like they really cared for the guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason I really think they were mourning is because they missed the Studio 54 days. I think they missed. I mean, this was in 1989.
And it closed
Trauma
in the early 80s.
for. It closed in 86, but no celebrities were going there really after
It was never the same.
Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager were in prison. But what I think they were mourning is, yes, they love Steve Rubell, but they're kind of like, God, these are tough times.
Like end of an era, yeah.
You know, the Reagan 80s, he didn't cause AIDS, but AIDS was throughout.
And it probably,
the 80s.
I mean, you know, even though like he died at that moment, they probably knew other people that had HIV, and they probably knew other people that died before him, other people that were sick, and
that
you know,
group,
so,
yes,
yeah, and so it's like, you know,
well, part of the allure of Studio 54 is that it was so gay. They brought in gay people. I actually told Tiny Baby Asian boyfriend Pookie Butt this when I watched the documentary.
That's some nickname, by the way. Like,
yeah, his name is Tiny Baby Asian Pookie Butt.
Normally nicknames are like baby, sweetie.
Well, he's just
Snoopy.
so cute. Look at
Snoopy.
him sleeping over
And
there.
he
Our
has,
studio audience is sleeping.
8 names.
But what was I talking about?
Steve Rubell and AIDS, and
But what I talked
they were inviting
about.
gay men.
like they brought in gay men.
Oh, yes. So part of the reason. So when I hear about Studio 54, I call my New Orleans days, because for years, like my coming out days were in New Orleans. New Orleans is like raunchy, dirty. And this was in the year 2001 onwards, where it was like there were very few boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it had its own early 2000s culture, which I don't think is indicative of the rest of the country. But I consider New Orleans like my Studio 54 days. But part of the reason why, to a lot of straight people, Studio 54 is like this amazing period in time is because it's so open. It sounded to me like a normal gay bar. Like, they brought in so many drag queens and gay people that the straight people were shocked, gobsmacked, and like, you know, had their hands across their chest about the amount of gay people. Like, it was very...
It's eye-opening.
Eye-opening to them. But Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager have given interviews saying we were influenced and we based it on gay bars. This kind of anything goes attitude,
Yeah.
which at the time especially, which has been diminished in the last few years, many years, is this sense of, hey, this is our haven.
Oh yeah,
The
freedom.
gays were like, this is our time to do whatever the hell we want to.
Yeah.
And all types of gays are going to be in this one environment. So, I mean, there weren't goth gays back then, but let me use these as an example. If you had a goth gay or a glamour queen or all types of gays would have been in
It was
that
the one place you could be yourself.
mega club. And Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager said, come to our bar, we want you. And it kind of made it, the gays made Studio 54. They made it. And Steve Rubell was gay. So the fact that we know Stephen Rubell in Studio 54, everyone but Tonti Domo, is
And
because
my loyal fan
of-
base. Thank you.
Exactly.
Montana, what up?
Is because of such a gay influence on Studio 54 itself. So he got out of prison early 80s, remained an addict. Steve Rubell needed to be loved, which is, I think, both to this day, but especially back then, was indicative of closeted gay people, to where it's like, you're not going to let me for who I actually am, but I can make you love me. You know, this whole like song and dance, shuck and jive thing. And he needed all these celebrities. He just thrived and lived off.
Sounds like Donald Trump.
thrived and lived off these celebrities liking him, and then the entire time he was gay and sleeping with people, got AIDS, hepatitis, and all that, and he never told anyone. He never told people the reason why he was going to die.
Oh, that's sad.
It was still, I mean, this was the 80s where it was still secretive.
Yeah.
But they all knew, and they all didn't care. Which, if you listened to our podcast last week, we kind of talked about, to where we are so, a lot of times as gay people, traumatized about what people are going to do, that we don't give them the benefit of the doubt of the compassion that they may have for us. You know, like, there are always going to be allies there for us. And the footage I saw of Calvin Klein, although he's bisexual, weeping, and like Bianca Jagger, I don't know if Liza Minnelli went, although she was really good friends with him, knew he was gay. These people that were going, knowing he was gay, and being like, hello, in 1989, it was very controversial to even be in the same room with somebody that had AIDS.
Yeah.
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 So they were there kind of like putting their neck on the lines, and I wish he could have seen that, because he needed it so much to survive. Like, he needed to be loved. He needed to be acknowledged and all that. And it was a different time, to where it would be different now, but he felt like he had to keep it secret.
And so this week he died back in...
So he died in July 25th, 1989 of AIDS.
30 years ago? Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was quite a time.
But he was the legendary co-founder of Studio 54.
Wow. Well, now you know a little bit about Studio 54, Tony. We're not only educating listeners, we're educating you or each other.
Exactly.
It starts from within.
It
All
does.
right. So let's talk about the Boy Scouts. Before we do that, a little word from our sponsors. Hey, did you know the unemployment rate is at 3.7%? You know, this is if people listen to this like 5 years now down the road, and the unemployment rate isn't 3.7%, they're going to freak out. But anyway,
That's like super low. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
So, hey, did you know the unemployment rate is at 3.7% in the U.S.? If you are trying to hire someone, then you probably already know that, because you are having trouble finding quality candidates. Economy Works is here to help. Don't have time, energy, or the resources to hire? Economy Works is ready to help you write job descriptions, find candidates, review resumes, and phone screen candidates. Let the Economy Works Talent Network help you do more with less. Economy Works. When we work, the economy works. Find out more at economyworks.com. All right, so... Tony, tell us about the Boy Scouts. What happened this week in history?
So, the Boy Scouts of America, in 2015 this week, they removed the national restriction on gay leaders and employees. And so, you know, I was a Boy Scout growing up.
Were you?
I was
And the
in
intern.
grade school and junior high. And then, you know, I really didn't know much about the Boy Scouts after that. Like, growing up, it was really like, you know, when I was in it, it was, you know, you kind of learned like wilderness survival, stuff like that.
Wait, do you consider yourself a Boy Scout just because you were in Montana and you weren't actually in the Boy Scouts?
No, I was
You
in
were
the Boy
just
Scouts.
Just because I grew up in Montana, you have the equivalent skills of a Boy Scout.
No.
Legit
I was
Boy
in the
Scout.
Boy Scouts, yeah.
All right.
And at the time, like, it's just, okay, like, what we learned is, like, kind of how to survive in the wilderness, stuff like that. And so I remember thinking, you know, when, like, they allowed, you know, gay people to become, you know, when Scouts were allowed to be gay, and then when they allowed, you know, employees or leaders to be gay.
Wait, when did they allow? What do you mean?
So historically, like, they wouldn't allow Scouts to be gay, and that was in I think 2013. And then up until 2013, you couldn't be. So they never, and their stance was, it was kind of like don't ask, don't tell. They're not going to try to find out if you're gay, but if you're obviously gay, you're out.
As a leader or as a scout?
As a scout.
Okay.
And so in 2013, it was Scouts. And this week in history, in 2015, that's when they removed the restriction on leaders and employees. So when those two things were announced, I just thought, wow, you know, what a remarkable achievement, or, you know, like what progress. But as I was investigating this, the Boy Scouts really have a pretty mixed history on this. So basically, Boy Scouts of America was founded in 1910, and they have this declaration of religious principles that you have to abide by. And part of their mission is to instill values in young people and prepare them to make ethical and moral choices. And so there's this oath that you have to say at like every meeting. And part of the oath is you have to say, I will do my best to do my duty to God, and I will be morally straight. And even in 2015, they solidified this with, as you go through the scout ranks, if you, do everything and like get all the merit badges to like go to the next rank, you still, in order to be allowed to go to the next rank, you have to tell them, how have you done your duty to God to be able to allowed to the next rank? So
you did the Scoutmaster in camp. Is that how that worked? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's indoctrination.
You blew the camp instructor.
Well, it's kind of so growing up. Like I was in Scouts for probably like 4, 5, 6 years, and none of this ever.
That explains why you're a lesbian.
Yes,
very butch.
And so none of this ever came up. And so as I was researching this, some of the troops didn't really abide by these national rules, but these were the national rules. So the national organization, pretty much from the late 70s through the early, through 2012, they actually over time solidified and made more strict their policies against gay people. So they would literally have policies saying, we do not allow gay scouts, or we don't allow gay employees. Leaders cannot be a role model to scouts if they're gay. And so over time
you couldn't get a badge for being fashion design, and like we talked about with Queer Eye, etiquette, how to pair wine with your cheese.
And it wasn't only gay people. So they actually they don't allow atheist or agnostic people. And again, they don't seek out what is your religion, but they have 35 kind of approved religions.
Can you be Muslim?
You can be Muslim. So they have 35 approved.
So you have to believe in something?
Something. And again, they don't seek it out.
What if you believed in Satan?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's not God.
But they're if you're obviously atheist or agnostic, and they didn't even allow moms to volunteer. And so in the 1980s, they were sued because there was a single mom that wanted to be involved with her son's troop. And they were actually, even though they won the legal battles, they were kind of dissed for their legal language. So in one of the court proceedings, they said, men have gone through the biological changes that boys are going through. That's why women can't really be involved in the Scouts. And so, anyways, throughout history, whether it's
can I ask you a question on that, since you were a Scout? What is that part of the process, or talking about? I thought it was more on acts, like making a fire, or versus let's talk about how let's talk about your first erection. Those aren't things that are discussed,
okay.
Right?
So actually, when I was in Scouts, it was literally you would go to weekly meetings, and we did various community service projects. So there was this thing called Paint the Town, where there were people that needed their house painted, but they really couldn't afford the labor, and so if they bought the paint, we would show up and paint the house or whatever. And we did these survival camps where you would go out and you could only build a campfire once a day to cook your dinner, whatever. And so these were kind of the national guidelines, whatever. And so each troop kind of were able to. Some troops didn't abide by all of these guidelines, and I think that the national organization didn't really punish them. I don't know how much the national organization knew, but 70% of the troops are affiliated with religious organizations. They're not just so. The one I was associated with, it was just the town's Cub Scouts, and so because in Montana, that a lot of people religion isn't as big as it is down here in the South.
We had a friend who was a recruiter, or she was an organizer for the Scouts, and she worked with a lot, and she was a lesbian.
She was a lesbian, and the policy at the time, they would not allow it.
Yeah, she was scared all the time she was going to get fired.
Yeah.
She told no one she was a lesbian. It was very obvious.
No, and so even in 2000, there was a guy that he had risen through all the ranks of the Scouts. He was an Eagle Scout. He went on to college, and he was on he went to Rutgers, and he was in a student LGBT organization, and he went to an LGBT conference. and they interviewed him. And somebody from the Boy Scouts of America found this interview where he admitted that he was gay, and they basically dismissed him from being a scout leader. And he took it to the Supreme Court because Scouts was part of his identity, and they won. And so throughout their history, every time that they eased up, so like when that mom sued and said, I want to be part of my son's troop, the Boy Scouts of America actually won the legal battle. But there was so much public pressure, it got so much publicity that they said, you know what, we will let moms volunteer for their son's troops. And so throughout history, like the reason that they changed and eased up on some of these issues, whether it was like, and actually like now you cannot be atheist or agnostic. Like they've eased up on the gay issue. They've eased up on like women volunteering, and they actually have two factions within. So they have like the Scouts, and then they have this like, I can't remember this leadership thing, but only the leadership thing is co-ed. The Scouts are still, it was boys only, and then the Girl Scouts put pressure on them, and then they allowed girls, but it's only like you're either in the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts. You can't be in both.
Here's my thing, if you don't mind if I
I want to hear your thing.
So what if the Boy Scouts was homophobic and said, we don't want any gays, whether they be boys or leaders, in the organization? Should we force them to accept little gay kids and gay men to be in it? Or should we say, we don't want to be a part of your organization if that's the way you feel? Well, like, what do you think, as a former Boy Scout, the best response would be?
Well, so here's my thing. So over time, their philosophy was, we're a private organization. We can do what we want. And I think it was individual. Like, so the person that he was a scout, he became an Eagle Scout. He was a scout for years. And he was a scout leader. And as soon as they found out he was gay, they dismissed him from the Scouts. He wanted to be part of the organization because for whatever reason, that was part of his identity. And so I don't think it should be like, there are some people that I want to be part of this and I want to learn everything, or I want to have the community that they offer or have, but I'm being excluded because I'm gay, because I'm a girl, because I'm atheist. And so
I think it's a very fine line between, do we need to force everyone to be okay with us, or can we just say, look, can it, and I don't want to equivocate the Boy Scouts with KKK, but hear me out, okay? Should black people have said, let me into your KKK organization? First of all, don't believe Boy Scouts are the same, but I'm saying if Boy Scouts are saying we don't want anything to do with gay people,
yeah,
whether they be kids or leaders, is the best response to be, oh no, you will accept us, we want to be a part of your group? Or is it, I don't want to be a part of your group, your group is oppressive and it's teaching kids a horrible thing? Well,
and my thing is, so this was kind of my philosophy with the whole like gay baker thing that went to the Supreme Court a couple of years ago. So, you know, in Colorado, a gay couple there was this awesome bakery that did the best wedding cakes. This gay couple went to them and said, I want you to do my wedding cake. And he's like, don't like gay people, not going to do your wedding cake. And so they sued him and took him to the Supreme Court. And my thing is, I'm not going to pay somebody hundreds of dollars for my wedding cake if they're anti-gay. But it kind of said, like, the whole reason it went to the Supreme Court is people like, well, if people can legitimately not do your wedding cake, then, and this was an issue in the Texas legislature this year, paramedics can decide not to treat you if you're gay, which we talked about Paul Broussard a couple weeks ago, where, you know, they were like,
doctors, that's still going on now.
But isn't that different though? I mean, because they take an oath, like there's an ethical oth that they have to treat.
But in
that
Texas,
doesn't matter.
In Texas, they don't
there
know.
Are doctors' oaths that say, hey,
Yep.
I'm Jehovah's Witness.
If
or
it
I'm
goes
Mormon.
against
Oh,
their
that's
religion, they
interesting.
do not have to treat
I
you.
didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
And so my thing is, I personally would, if, like, looking back, if I knew the gay scouts were, or the
Gay
Boy
Scouts. Freudian.
if I knew the Boy Scouts were anti-gay, I just wouldn't want to be part of that organization. But I'm also I'm not going to try to change them. Who cares? But I feel if somebody's like, God, I really want to be part of that, it shouldn't be, they shouldn't discriminate. But it's funny because, I feel we've talked about this, like, politicians evolving. And so the Scouts, they've been very controversial over the years. So throughout all of the decades where people have been fighting them, like a mom says, I want to be, there are a lot of conservative organizations that are donating money to them, providing legal resources to say, we'll help you fight this in court. And there are people writing books saying, like, let the Scouts be who they want to be. Like, let them exclude whoever. They're a religious organization, whatever. They're not a religious organization, but they're heavily, like, the reason that they have that declaration of religion, whatever, is because they were appeasing the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church didn't want the Boy Scouts to be a Protestant organization, which to me says the Catholic Church must have been giving them money or they wouldn't have done that. Anyways, that was way back decades ago. But there were also people that are against all of these, like Scouts, parents, ACLU, companies. So they had, like, board members. And so in actually 2012, they had a 2-year study by, like, I think 11 board members. Should we continue to exclude LGBT people from our membership and our leadership? And after a 2-year study of 11 people, they said, yes, we should continue these policies.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. If you invite...
Excuse me, I'm trying to diet.
Rude.
Rude.
Oh my God, Dumbo.
After those mac and cheese
Yeah,
balls?
I was like, thank you for those mac and cheese bites.
Dumbo, it's not about your weight, it's about your ears.
Spencer.
No, but listen.
Ouch. My
Let's talk
ears
about a
versus
big
my weight.
component of it is if you allow gay men in, are you allowing the potential for child molesters to be in?
Right.
Is that, Thomas, as
Wait,
you're typing...
Say this again?
So, to me, the big elephant in the room is...
Again, with the insult.
Oh my God,
Which
I
was
cannot
probably
let it
their
go.
rationale, but there can be straight child
No,
molesters.
and you know what? That's my
What-
thinking. It might just be because they're so homophobic, whatever. But let me ask this to you two.
Who else
If
you guys-
if it is an all male organization and you allow gay people in, are you worried, or do you think it matters, or do you think there should be any kind of stop to gays because of the potential of molestation?
Here's my thing. There's potential, but there are how many straight men with wives and kids that are molesting kids?
Okay, let me ask you this.
Wait.
Should straight men be den mothers for Girl Scouts?
There are plenty of men who would be excellent den mothers and not even be remotely.
How do you pick them? Like,
But the thing is, like, but that's picking individual. Like, you can't set policy based on there might be an extreme case, and not even extreme. There might be some cases. Like, the policy should be the overall general population would act in a certain way. Let's set our policy. Like, it's just like public benefits. Like, some people are going to abuse the system, and so saying, like, I don't want national health care because some people will abuse the system.
I say this as someone who's molested that took advantage of babysitting me, you know, and we could say not all male babysitters or child molesters,
Right.
but they use the opportunities they can.
I agree. No, I
So
totally
how do
agree.
we protect, in other words?
Right.
Maybe that should be the argument, is how do we protect little boys from child molesters? And first of all, I
and
don't
girls.
consider child.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Children.
I don't consider child molesters necessarily gay. I think they're
No, I think some are straight.
mentally,
Yeah.
whatever. But I also do know predators, and predators are like, if I want to molest a little boy, then I'm going to go
And I
to
agree.
where little boys are. My molester one of my molesters went into a hospital where he volunteered to. Does this make you uncomfortable?
No. I mean,
because it's
a
real
tough
life.
subject, but yeah.
One of my molesters went into a hospital where he volunteered to read stories to pediatric cancer male patients to molest them.
Yeah.
It was found out that he was a child molester, so he walked into that hospital and blew his brains out. But before that time, everyone would say, "Oh my God, he was an amazing person." I think I'm getting off topic, both yes and no, because I know, and I don't think necessarily gays were not. I don't think gays were prevented from interacting with boys because they were gay. I just think it was general homophobia. But my question is, as someone who's experienced that, is that if you open up to, I don't know. You know what?
And it's hard.
You know what I mean?
It's a
tough even for me
subject.
because
Yeah.
I don't want to make that.
No, I mean, I don't think. Well, obviously, I have no opinion that molesters are gay people, right? I mean, think about the Catholic Church. I mean, those are. I mean,
they might be gay, but there are just as many, if not more, straight molesters.
Yeah,
Right.
and so that's why I feel like
a molester is a molester, not a straight molester or a gay molester.
Yeah, and so I feel like not allowing gay people, it's like more of a fast pass for straight people who are molesters too. So I think you shouldn't say, okay, some gay people might try to be like, oh, I'll try to go to the Boy Scouts because they allow gay people. I mean, there are just as many straight people that would molest people or young boys as gay people. So I think like that should
I'm
not
dealing
be.
with this in real time, like trying to figure out as we talk about this discussion.
Yeah.
What the
And it
best
is because,
thing
I mean,
is
an
because
organization like the Scouts, a big part of it is you do outdoor activities where it's only males.
That's facilitated by adults.
Yeah.
But guess
males.
what? Is that why they don't allow gays in? Is really their reasoning in the past because they're scared little boys are going to be molested? No. There's the religious and cultural component of we don't want you around our kids because you're an immoral, bad person.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the
and I think culturally, so they think it's like
but it's multi.
Yeah, and they think it's an immoral, bad person, but then also, like, the reason they early on adopted this like declaration of religious principles is to appease the Catholic Church, which to me says there's just this ingrained religion portion, and
always
and when they started saying, okay, we will allow
component.
and when they said we will allow gay people to be leaders, so the Mormon Church said, then we're done with the Boy Scouts of America, and so they lost some of their biggest supporters, and it's so another interesting thing about this is
I think it's rich though that these religious organizations are like no gay people, yet they have ministers, people in their ranks that are it's the Catholic Church in particular that are molesting boys, and girls, like so and those folks are seen and trusted individuals. So
irony. One thing that I found interesting, so throughout their history, the Boy Scouts of America, as they allowed moms to volunteer, as they, were a little more appeasing to gay people.
But why should you allow moms to volunteer? Is my thing.
But
I think, Tony, you thought I was going to go a different direction with this. But my thing is, why do moms have to volunteer? Why can it not just be a...
So, actually, the reason this case
parental thing, though.
So, because there were a lot of single moms that had boys in Boy Scouts, and they're like, I want to be involved in my son's things, and they're like, you can't do anything.
Right.
And so, and they literally weren't allowed to do anything. They're like, you can't do anything. You're a female. And so, the reason that they kind of eased up on this, almost every time that they eased up, it was either, and a lot of times they won the court battles, but it was either they were afraid of legal action, or even though they won legal action, they faced so much backlash, even though they won. And even, so the reason that, Gates said he recommended to, the panel to change the national thing, he said, laws are changing across the United States, and we have increased probability of legal action. And he said it's unsustainable for our organization because in 1989 they had 4.2 million scouts. In 2009 they had 2.9 million. Right now they have 2.3. And he said because of this, like, it's unsustainable. We're losing members. And he said what we can do if you approve the national, easement on prohibition of gay leaders, we will just leave it up to the clubs. And so right now it's up to the clubs. So the national organization said, you know what, it's okay.
States' rights are equivalent.
Yes, and
right.
so 70% of clubs are associated with religious organizations. And so I just feel during my whole research of this.
Okay, but what if they are affiliated with religious? Let me ask you this, because this might turn into a 3-hour podcast. What if there's an a Boy Scout institution that says we are avowedly Christian,
Yeah.
and we don't agree with, and they actually adhere to Christian values, which are horrible, horrific policies. Okay, horrible.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's why we got that 1-star rating.
Yeah. Listen to previous podcasts.
And my
about
friend
that.
Robert's like,
They're not
don't
listening
care.
anymore.
sending me all these questions.
Call
right?
me in, please. Address me. Give my.
Let's talk about gay stuff at
Okay,
gmail.com.
So, what if they were actually your local Boy Scout troop was so pro-Christian?
Yeah.
What if it excluded gays, women?
Then
and
I
all
wouldn't want to
that?
go there.
Could you force them?
No, and I wouldn't want to.
I think that's kind of my argument.
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
maybe create a parallel.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's capitalism, right? Just
But
like-
that's so hard because we're talking about Boy Scouts. But where does that end?
Yeah.
Does that end?
Yeah.
Do we say the Democratic Party? Because the Democratic Party was not necessarily always pro-LGBT. Do we say
Right.
we create a It's the whole argument. And I'm not
My
giving.
thing is, go ahead.
Do you work from within or do you create a different?
And my thing is, if I was in some small town and the Boy Scout troop was pretty religious, and my personal just my personality is like, you know what, let them be them. I'll find some other. But there are some kids that are like, you know what, I really want to be part of them.
all
and
my
they
friends
wanna,
are part of it. I want to join.
and they want, and it's like just because I'm gay or just because, and I guarantee some of these 70% of these are affiliated with religious organizations. If it's part of the Mormon Church and you're Catholic, all my friends are going to that Boy Scout troop, but because I'm Catholic, I can't. And so that's kind of where I have the issue. I personally would just be like, you know what, let them be them. I'm outie. But I don't, just like the baker. It's like, I would never go to that fucker for my wedding cake. But if he wins his battle, then you have, a doctor can say.
And these are tricky questions that even
Yeah. It's not easy. Yeah.
I don't want to be the knee-jerk liberal that says whatever Huffington Post tells me to say.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I don't know if I want a Christian baker to have to make my cake. But if you give me the analogy of black people not being allowed in restaurants or not being served, I'm like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's okay not to have the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is what's lacking in 2019 is that we feel like we have to pick a side. So what you're dealing with, you're picking the most extreme side or the other most extreme side, and that's not how life works.
Right.
Because I get the. If the Boy Scouts are, and I'm not saying all of them are, if they are extremely homophobic and think that if you allow gay men that it will feminize the boys and it will create molesters, whatever that, I'm not going to hate you for that. I disagree with you for that, but
part of me wonders, though,
know.
I mean, if they were founded like in 1910 and they had this religious declaration early on because of the Catholic Church. It's almost like, is it so ingrained that, like, I don't know if part of their funding comes from all these religious and 70% of their chapters are associated. And so are they afraid that if we do this, we'll fall apart? I don't really know. Like, if there's like this moral thing.
No one knows right now in 2019.
Right.
No one knows if.
But I mean, even in the 80s, 90s, if they were like, oh, we'll lose all of our members if we do this. But then they're losing them anyway because they're.
Well, religion is losing members, which I think is a good thing. Honestly.
I mean, well, we
think
know
for yourselves,
we know
people.
your views on religion.
But if you're a religious person that adheres to your religion by yourself, with yourself, I love you. I know many people like you, but anyway.
Your dad. But yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, this argument, like the baker thing, for me, it's like I would just go to another baker, but until we have that common
But why
frame.
should you?
But,
Is another
I
argument.
guess my point
Yeah.
is because I mean, it's the same reason I wouldn't go to a coffee shop where the guy's a jerk to me. Not because I'm gay, but just because he's a jerk. If he's rude, then I'm like, I don't want to be here.
Right,
but
but it takes the rabble-rousers to...
But my point here would be, the reason it's an issue is because there's not a national framework for equality for LGBT citizens. If I know that I'm not going to be
agreed upon.
if I'm not going to be discriminated against for housing, marriage, all that sort of stuff, employment, then I don't care. But because I don't have parity with straight people on that, then yeah, it's an issue. This baker, otherwise I would care.
And you know what's interesting? So when this bill this year was before the Texas legislature about let's allow paramedics and first responders religious freedom, and that's it's basically a religious
Slippery
freedom
slope,
bill.
dangerous.
And so I remember talking to one of my friends who listens to our podcast, and I told her about the bill, and she goes, "But I mean, how would they know you're gay? How could they really stop, like, first responding to you?" And at the time, I thought, well, and maybe you have a point. I didn't think you had a point, but I thought, how do I respond to that? But then a month later, we're talking about Paul Broussard, and they're like, oh, a guy's like stabbed in Montrose and pleading for his life. We'll get there when we can.
Okay, dear, but what about if you're not unconscious?
Yeah.
And you've been pulled out of a gay bar, and you are conscious? Do they need to find out if you're gay? You think they're going to investigate?
No, and that's what I'm saying.
Right.
The thing is, if
so
like right
whole,
now I had a
how
heart
do they
attack,
know if you're gay thing is
Well, yeah.
kind of moot.
And the thing is, if right now I had a heart attack and we called the ambulance, they'd
Very
probably be
feasible.
here lickety split. Yeah. It is feasible.
At
I'm not getting any
at
younger.
your age.
But if I'm in the
Slow
middle of
down.
Montrose and I'm like, oh my God, this emergency happened, they think Montrose, gay, against my
Do
religious
you think
beliefs.
back in
I
the
don't have
day
to
or
show up.
right now?
Right now, they can, based
Yeah.
on this new law.
I don't
yeah.
think. I
it's
mean, you think that's
possible.
an issue now, though?
It doesn't matter
Which
if
it
it's
could
an
be.
issue, is that it can be, and there's always
Yes.
the can be's are always the Supreme Court
And I-
decisions. The
Well,
ones
and I will
that,
say this: I feel I've led kind of a different life to a lot of people as
we
far
know.
as like being from a small town, the industry I work in, and it's like, yeah, I guarantee a lot of my coworkers, if they were first responders, they don't like gay people,
Yeah.
and they would totally be
or don't
like,
understand. It's not that they don't like. A lot of people just have never met anyone.
right, exactly. And so if they're a first responder and it's like a gay person, they would exercise that
Stereotype,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we got deep.
Anyways,
Well, gay people always go deep. The tops do. Go ahead.
The bottom's getting deep too. So I heard. I don't know.
Splat.
well, so I've heard.
I mean,
you know.
maybe I
I know.
whatever. I
We're
think
classy.
I think it's
Splat,
important to
splat.
be open to experiences. That's all I would say. And so.
Oh, honey, I'm wide open.
Oh, all right. That's the wine talking over there. Now she's turning 40. She's just getting frisky. She doesn't care.
40 in 2 weeks.
was
Not
all
right
right.
now.
Years
All
ago.
right. Okay. Okay. So Boy Scouts, like I said, I think we went there. We went there. So.
And there's more to talk
Wait,
about. there,
Tony,
too.
did you think this would be the discussion that we would have?
Largely, yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. No, I because I feel like it's it's just very controversial, and I can see like both sides, and kind of was where I thought it would be.
I don't like liberal versus conservative discussions, because that's not where Earth resides.
Well, and one
you know
thing,
what I mean?
like,
that's not where
and I know we need to
humanity
move on,
is.
but like, you know, when it, because publicly, I just remember thinking, oh my God, the Boy Scouts are doing this. That's awesome. And, you know, one of the justifications for, I think you should approve this is we can push it down to the troop level, let them decide what they want. Wink, wink, 70% are religious and they're going to do what we want anyway. Historically, some troops ignored all this anyway. And so it was kind of like, let's just do this to, you know, publicly appease or look good. And I don't know,
but it's a good, even though it's not 100%, I mean, like we've talked about before, it's incremental.
Well, Thomas, what's your opinion?
At the federal, or
the quiet little
at the
moderator.
At the federal level, like, or at the national level, they've got a policy, right? And so that's a good start. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not 100%.
But no, I think like in politics, sometimes politicians, their thing is, let's let the states decide.
Yeah.
And it's like such a cop-out.
I mean, I don't know if that's a cop out. Like I think
it's a cop out.
I mean, I like I said, I think
Issues.
there's right to have national level a policy, and then the states can decide from there. But if there's like with DOMA and Don't Ask, Don't Tell, like those are like national employment discrimination.
Those
like,
are bigger than Boy Scouts.
Yeah,
Well,
but I think in general, sometimes like politicians who are at a national level, if they don't want to like have a hard stance on something to lose votes, they say, "Well, I want to push it down to the
Yeah,
state."
no,
absolutely.
I get it, but I'm still. I guess my point is at the at the federal level or at the national level, in case the Boy Scouts, there should be that framework saying we're not discriminating against any certain group. Like to me, that should be out there, right? Now,
Yeah.
whether how the states want to apply that, I mean, I think
say
there's
they
some
don't
discretion
believe
to do that. They don't believe in it. Well, like we say, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. So, anyways.
Barack Obama would not have believed in it. Bill Clinton would not have believed
Actually,
in it.
and in 2012,
Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, these are politicians. So what needs to be done, and I'm not saying even do it because I have guilt about my level of activism. Politicians will only do what people drag them and make them do.
I agree.
Period.
On both sides.
Period. So, and that includes the Democratic side.
I agree.
So, when we talk about liberal and moderates / centrist, it's the liberals that churn out moderates in a factory. You know what I mean? It's taking a centrist and saying, "No, boo boo, I'm gonna adhere to my convictions, and look at all these people behind me. They want this. It makes sense to them." And then it's the people in power that say, "Okay, let me steal some of it. Give me some of it." You know what I mean?
That's why I feel like when I was involved, and I know we're kind of going on here, but when I was involved in politics, I was kind of the odd person out because I would actually think for myself. And a lot of these people are like, but the Democrats believe this. And it's like, but I don't agree with everything they you know, like their stance. And so, like, sometimes when you think for yourself, it like puts people off or whatever. But I kind of agree.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say, like, because this ticks me off on both sides, is having principle, right? I mean, it's the Trump voters the Republicans have lost all sense of principle, which they used to claim they had, right? I mean, they're just.
But what are the
blindly accepting
Democrats'
them.
principles?
Well, I'm not saying. Yes, there's a lack of principle there too, and so I'm like, have an argument, like call Dems out, but also call your own side out. Same thing with the Dems, like you got to call
or just be honest,
out.
your own honesty. How
or
about
true,
that?
yeah, you're right. It's the same thing with like Hillary Clinton.
not
It's like,
teams.
was I voting for Hillary? Yes. Did I think she was perfect? Did she have a
Oh, God, I thought
pass?
she was awful, but I preferred her.
Yeah.
But see, and that's the thing. That's where, like, if you have your thoughts and you're like, wow, Bernie is pushing the party to a certain direction, you can vote for him in the primary, but our system is, in the general, you have to vote for one or the other. But that's where I feel like, you know, individuality, you can push the party, right? Like,
you know who's amazing throughout all this, whether you like her or not, and I don't even know if I like her or not, but I admire her chutzpah, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which we've mentioned many times.
AOC.
What she's doing is saying, stop. you're arguing a premise that's been argued. In other words, stop eating what's being fed to you for decades. Because if you are a Democrat, many times it's like, okay, what is the Democratic Party telling me to believe? What is the Democratic Party telling me we can achieve? Here's a woman that's like, no, rethink it all. Shake it up, pour it out, rethink it. And she's completely taken over the Democratic Party. Yes, taken over. And yes, she's getting heat right now. But she's made us stop thinking about, oh, well, there's been 2 or 3 generations of Democrats telling us that this is only possible. It's the brainwashing of saying this is only what you're capable of. Let's work within the system, which is and I used to be that person. And you know what? I'm a Kamala Harris person, which is to me like a middle person between those two. But Hillary, Bill Clinton, to an extent, even Barack Obama. I mean, Barack Obama was not.
But, so your point on AOC.
My thing is AOC is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yep.
Is like, stop! You're being held hostage by people that aren't looking out for you necessarily. They're trying to play both sides.
And you're kind of in a group thing.
Yeah, exact group thing. And they're trying to not piss off people that they think will vote for him that never do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I admire her, what she's done, like the impact she's had at 29 years old. Like, she's the talk of the party, and I do appreciate her congressional hearings. She's very reasoned, and I do not like this politician, but like Ted Cruz. Like, if you watch Ted Cruz in a hearing, he doesn't need a script. Like most of these guys, like you watch the hearings of all the Mueller and not Mueller, but the Barr, and when they were doing the hearing for Kavanaugh, like he could speak to it. He didn't need a script. He wasn't grandstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, he does grandstand, but he knows his points. And again, I'm not trying to give him any credit because I wanted him out desperately. But AOC is the same way. You listen to her in a congressional hearing. She doesn't need a script. She's very principled.
It's
She's
passion for her.
Yeah,
it's stuff she thought about years before she was elected.
Right.
But, however, my dears, I don't think she needs to automatically be the usurper of Nancy Pelosi.
No. You want to talk about...
However, Nancy Pelosi, my God, my dear girl, get it together. Do something.
Well, it goes
you
back
are the speaker because we wanted you to respond to Trump.
Wow.
But anyway, let's talk about your time.
Wow, you were... you're
I
for
love
Nancy. You love
And you
Nancy.
know what? I can be a pro-Nancy person.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's critical. It's a democracy.
And then I can also be like...
And see, I think that's important to be like, I'm a pro whoever, but then I'm going to call them out like they're not perfect.
Because you have principles. Yes,
that's the meaning of democracy.
Right.
Thank you.
So
anyway.
So we talked about AOC from New York, Latina.
What is AOC?
We've said AOC.
I know, but most people don't know Alexandria.
I don't know how many times we have to say her name. Yeah. Hey, speaking of fiery Latinas from New York, there's a girl from the Bronx who's celebrating her 50th birthday this month.
She's 50?
Oh my gosh, I've been waiting to talk about her.
His favorite.
Wow.
J to the L-O, Jennifer Lopez, turning 50.
Wow.
Jennifer Lopez turns 50. She was born on July 24th, 1969. She looks freaking amazing.
It's crazy, actually.
Okay.
She looks 30.
She looks amazing. You know, you look at her, she looks fantastic. Her body is flawless, but can I just say this? You put her next to a Kardashian, like the younger Kardashian. That's when you start to say, oh, yeah, she does look like a mature woman.
Here's where I want to catch myself.
Yes.
What if she looks 70? Would it really matter?
No, I mean, she's amazing. I am. So we're talking about the one known as J-Lo. Known for her music.
The one and only.
Known for her acting. Known for her dancing. Known for her career, known for her in terms of spanning different genres, known for her numerous takes at romance, known for that big booty. She is turning 50.
I love her.
She gained critical acclaim for movies Out of Sight, which she's co-starred with George Clooney, but probably her biggest breakout movie,
Definitely. Are you gonna say Selena? Yes.
Oh,
That's her iconic role.
This boy has a place in his heart.
Okay, so you're
for
a San
Selena.
Antonio boy.
How are you not
Tell
know
us
I'm
about
talking
your.
Can I talk about Selena?
Huh?
Can I talk about Jennifer Lopez?
You said Selena.
Actually, when I first saw the movie Selena, when Jennifer Lopez came out in it, I was like, "This is not Selena," obviously. But I was like, I was disappointed. I mean, I was like, "Oh, this movie's great," even though if you watch the movie now, it's awful. Like the acting's terrible, but nonetheless, it's campy. But at the time, it was.
Do you think it was true to the story? Her life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good story. The movie came out.
Well, it was an authorized movie, so
yeah, her family was Selena's family was very involved in it. But like oddly enough, Jennifer Lopez is known for her big booty, and they had to pad her booty because Selena's booty was bigger. So go figure. And, she didn't. I don't know. It was just. It was a little bit. I guess that was still fresh off the death of Selena. So looking at Jennifer Lopez, realizing she wasn't actually Selena was a little bit like, But I've come to love J-Lo. When she came out, like I said, I watched Out of Sight. Her first album, On the Six, dropped 20 years ago in 1999. So that was a big thing. I remember playing On the Six. Like my girlfriend in college had sent me. I was in North Carolina. And selling books door to door. I can tell you guys that story at another time. But I was selling books door to door. My girlfriend would send me care packages. Is one of the first packages she sent me was a pregnancy test because we had a scare, and so here I am in North Carolina.
Imagine?
That was my biggest fear as given all my family, my aunts and uncles, my parents all got pregnant as teenagers or before they got married. I was like, I was so happy when I got through high school not having gotten my high school girlfriend pregnant, and then I was in college and we had the scare, and I was like, and we had only had sex like once or twice, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Could you?
She calls me while I'm in North Carolina. She's like, I'm late, and I'm like, what the? So then she winds up sending me the pregnancy test, and it was negative. Which I mean, she peed on that stick and sent it to me, so that was nice. But also a care package. On that random aside, that care package she sent me the On the Six CD, which I jammed out at high volumes. At high. This is not a cup. Kendall's trying to pour wine, and that's not working. At high volumes, which my host's mom in North Carolina got mad at me because we would leave the house like at 6 a.m. and she'd go walking with her friends, and because I was blaring that, and my girlfriend at the time also sent me a Ricky Martin CD because he was popular at the same time. So I was playing Shake Your Bon Bon at like all the decibels at 6 a.m. in this neighborhood in my little purple Kia, and she was like, you can't be doing that. Like my friends were talking about it. Anyways, that was On the Six. 20 years ago, but she also then she started moved into acting. She went into rom-coms and movies like The Wedding Planner and Made in Manhattan. Yep. She was popular for those.
If you had my love.
Yes, she is a woman though that does not stop. She wrapped up her 40s with the Vegas residency, and released a movie, second act, and she's moving into her 6th decade. What I would say, in fuego. On fire. She's on world tour right now, which is wrapping up July 26th. So she's on a world tour. She's releasing a movie in September called The Hustlers, which she's playing a stripper. So you got to be a
good body.
For that. So my gosh, and this was a girl, which she loves to say. She's just a girl from the Bronx. So
she's a very famous woman.
Yeah,
love her.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
What is she most famous for?
So
not
her butt.
I agree.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Her booty, her singing, her acting. Like she was a performance of J-Lo's. I think her best performance, to me, she did a tribute to Celia Cruz at the Billboard.
Oh, but that was
American. But that was a good performance.
That's not what she's known
The
for.
thing is, even J-Lo, like I saw her on a Cosmo YouTube clip or something like that, and they were talking about her top 10 like greatest movies or greatest, like they're nothing that's stellar. It's not like a Meryl Streep.
Yeah,
she knows that. I mean, but she puts out. I mean, that woman is always working.
Because she built upon.
Makeup, fashion.
Well, and I would say this, talking about she's no Meryl Streep, but there are some actors that are only actors. Love her, but Cameron Diaz. I mean, she's a rom-com
person. I thought you meant Cameron Bure.
But she's a rom-com actor. She can't sing. You know, and
Yeah.
I feel like
Well,
one
Jen-
thing that always impresses me about people like J-Lo is, you know, she started out like as a singer, but she became an actor. Like, and she's, well, and so she, you know, like keeps reinventing herself, but then she also like sustains. Because, you know, one thing we've talked about is like, can these people really withstand all of this pressure and not go off the deep end?
I couldn't.
Yeah, and so like she's able
Could you?
to like,
Could you tell me?
you know,
That's why
probably
this
not.
podcast isn't going to get that famous because we can't.
No,
control
but for really, do you
We're
think
maxing out as we are.
100 listeners.
If you were the
that's
We're
J-Lo-
already topped out on alcohol right
if
here.
you were like the J-Lo of whatever
Banking.
famous thing, do you think you'd be like strong, handle it? I deal with this shit.
No, because I mean, I feel like when I
Nobody
get
can.
super uber stressed, like I, you know, kind of maybe drink a little more, yada yada, and so I can't imagine that. And so people like her that are like they don't lose their shit, and they're doing Vegas residencies, like, you know, when they're
That's
pushing
night
fi-
after night. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
at 49. Like,
She's a
imagine doing that
workaholic,
at 39.
though.
Yeah, and like, you know, when you like, I
She doesn't
remember
drink. That's a big thing.
I remember reading about like Cher when she did her Vegas residencies. She doesn't do anything but sit in her hotel, do yoga, like she just rejuvenates and performs.
And
That's
Jennifer
all she
Lopez
does.
has young kids. Her kids are, you know.
Okay, but
Yeah.
what's the trade-off?
Well, but what is
Exactly.
Well, she's,
in other words, like
Kendall, your life is better than hers. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, not at all.
but if you're enjoying, if those are passions
Yeah.
of yours, then why not? Like, if you enjoy singing, acting,
Mhm.
like being on tour.
Or how about fame is an addiction?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
So
the fame monster,
like Madonna.
right?
I mean,
Because J-Lo has more money than she will ever need to even open her mouth again. And
so does Madonna. And like, so like when you said
It's an
J-Lo doesn't
insecurity.
drink, Madonna, she literally, like when she goes on tour, her very first opening show, when they have the party, she will have one sip of champagne because, wow, successful opening night. She doesn't drink. And
well, she's a control freak for sure.
oh, she is. Oh, when she's traveling, like when she's on
Such a
tour,
control freak.
she will, like, her hotel room, like 2 days before she books the hotel room, and she's like, turn off the AC. And every morning she gets up, she does a 3-mile run. She's vegan.
You have to. I mean,
Yeah,
that's, I mean,
exactly.
you got to
And that-
be in
yeah.
that zen like
Yeah.
state. Like, you don't tour.
But is that a
and-
right thing for? In other words,
It's up to the individual.
It's
Not for
everyone.
you.
Not
No.
for everyone.
So what if I don't want to be J-Lo famous or Madonna famous?
Right.
In
Too
other
late,
words,
you already are.
no. Listen,
I agree.
J-Lo, for example, is insecure enough to say, "I need it. I need to be famous. I need to f my kids to a certain extent."
I don't know
how
if
we got
it's
to
that.
this
Like,
point, but
it's a because it's a creative. I mean, I get the fact of like
you don't
like
stumble into maintaining fame.
But I think there's something, because to me I feel like I will always be working, right? I think there's something that I like creating.
Well, you better work.
There's something like I like the creative process of going of making something and kind of seeing the final product. And so, and once I do one thing, I want to do another thing. And so if I had that opportunity and all the resources at my disposal, then I would do it. But they have to be present all the time. I mean, they're not on all those talk shows for the fun of it because they like to.
It's
they're
a
like-
job.
It's
It's always a
100.
job.
It's
being
24/7,
present.
365.
It's
Yeah.
being actresses.
And it's a balance too, because if you
Which we all benefit
oversaturate,
from.
if you oversaturate, then I mean, Taylor Swift saw this, right? But Taylor Swift was smart, and J Lo's been
Katy
smart.
Perry.
They're at all these different events and pursuing. I mean, J Lo has hosted different award shows. She's been at all the award shows. I mean, they're there
Yeah.
because that's part of their job, right? They attend and get those
Yep.
gowns because they
all
need
the
to take the
divas have to
pictures.
figure that out, though.
Yeah, I
because
mean-
J-Lo, we were sick of J-Lo for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and she knows that, right? I mean, she oversaturated the market, her brand, and so she had to, call it back. But she had kids, and she says, having kids was what saved her life because it kind of gave her purpose and made her refocus. And now everything she's doing, she's saying it's in pursuit of making the kids better, right? You can call it a bit vanity in terms of how she's making her money,
Yep.
but that's how she's.
She's beautiful. I think she's talented. I think she's a great mother.
Yep. So how'd she start? She started in regional theater. She started acting in early days, and then became. I think everyone knows her start as a dancer. She was a backup dancer for the New Kids on the Block and for Janet Jackson. And most people know her as a fly girl on the show in Living Color back on Fox back in the 90s. She left in Living Color.
Oh, that's Living Single?
For acting. Yes, that is Living
Wrong
Single.
one.
Different show. And she scored some noteworthy acclaim early on in film with a supporting role in Mi Familia, and then The Money Train, which was with Wesley Snipes.
Snop.
And then
He
she
was
was
slopping that.
she was in the movie Jack with Robin Williams and Diane Lane. So she got some good supporting roles there. And then of course her big breakthrough was Selena. And you know, actually, when she was cast as Selena, there was some pushback from the Mexican culture within the Latin because Selena was Mexican American and J-Lo is Puerto Rican. So, but nonetheless, she kind of from there she just propelled and kept going. Obviously, she released her music. You know, she launched her music career in 1999, and then she had one unique accomplishment. She was the first female back in January 2001 to score both the #1 album and a #1 film on both those charts. So the album was J-Lo and the film was Wedding Planner.
Okay.
She's cute. I love her.
So aside from her just being one fierce woman, the big question would be like, was she really a gay icon?
So is she a gay icon? To some gays. But we've talked about this before. I'm very reluctant to even use that term in the year 2019. Can we talk about this, Mr. Sir? Can we talk about this? Because the term gay icon and the whole concept of it was used in a time when there were no openly gay or accepted men. Not only that, but there were dozens of laws that prohibited gay people from even living their life. Do I think J-Lo is a gay icon? Yes. Okay. But in terms of the classic example that we used to use, I'm reluctant. Do we need straight women?
But here's my thing.
Can we be strong?
Can gay people be their own?
Can we be strong?
But here's my thing. Okay, so you say that, but here's my thing. Like when you asked about, well, is A League of Their Own, you know, like, is this even like a gay movie or whatever?
By the way, be sure to check out that episode if you haven't checked it out already.
And, you know, you mentioned one time just personally, like, about, like, oh, my God, when Steel Magnolias, I want to do that. Like, I feel like if it resonates with you, it resonates with other gay people.
Yes.
And just like I said, 9 to 5, there isn't anything at all about that movie that's gay. Resonates with me, resonates with a lot of gay people. And Steel Magnolias, nothing about that movie's gay. Resonates with a ton of gay people. And so whether, like, she's a gay icon or not, like, does she resonate with a lot of gay people? Absolutely,
yes. Yeah. I agree with you completely. I honestly do.
Yeah.
My thing is, it's 2019. We need to speak to everyone. In the sense of, this is why in our generation, hello, I'm 36. How old are you?
40.
Well,
You're
not
39.
yet. You'll be 40.
And you are?
You don't know this? We dated for how long?
I'm letting you
30.
speak.
39.
Your speak. Your
He still doesn't
He's like
know.
a month.
Well,
So
we'll
we
talk
have
another time about
so
when
we
he
have
forgot
a
my
very
birthday, but
distinct
whatever.
reference of what gay culture is, okay? And mine is, I know mine, 100%. I know mine, but I also know that it's 2019, and that gay culture is not necessarily let us find a sassy woman to stick up for me, because these bitches are sticking up for themselves. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
RuPaul,
job.
Ellen,
Yeah.
those,
Good job.
RuPaul, Ellen are now.
So what
gay
I don't
icons.
want to be is the conversation of we're lecturing people and saying
No, I don't.
that this is a gay icon when we can learn from the ones that are like 18 as well.
Yeah, but I don't think it's so much that. I think it's like, you know, these people are inspirational. And it's not necessarily that. I think anytime you find somebody that has had struggle in their life and really persevered, it's like, wow, that's, you know, because we've faced struggle, right? Like, I mean, being gay people, like, we faced various struggles. And so, like, anytime, that's why I feel a lot of gay men, you know, really identify with, like, strong women figures, right? Because, like, strong women figures that faced adversity in their life, and they, like Dolly Parton or whoever, and I think, like, we look up to them, and it's like we faced different struggles, but it's not like,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, so J-Lo has been an ally to the LGBT community, and
She's
back in
precious.
2013, the HRC granted her an Ally for Equality award at their national dinner in October of that year. Basically, I mean, they were noting, we recognize Jennifer for her talent, style, compassion, philanthropy, and generosity, but foremost her public commitment to the LGBT equality. She also released a song co-wrote a song with Lin-Manuel Miranda, "Love Make the World Go Round," which was released after the Pulse shooting, and the proceeds from that song all went to Proyecto Somos Orlando, which was a long-term bilingual and bicultural support organization to help victims from Pulse shooting. So she got some and most recently she got some kudos. Well, I mean, I don't think she gets kudos, but it was in the news that she reached out to valedictorian recently, who was barred from giving his original speech because he was going to talk about being gay, and she invited him backstage to her at her concert to say, hey, look, you're awesome and congratulations. So she's definitely a supporter of the LGBT community.
Which reminds me. Quick question. This is gonna be a quick topic. So online there was this bisexual guy that came out in his valedictorian high school speech and said, "I am bisexual," and people were like, "Oh my god!" They gave him a standing ovation, and a lot of straight people were like, "Why does that even matter? Who cares? Why is that even worth mentioning?" What do y'all think about that? Does that even warrant? Is that an accomplishment, or is it girl?
I think it depends on the context. Like, I don't know where his school was.
I don't remember either.
Well, because I mean, I think like if you were like in like inner city Manhattan and you're like, hey, everyone, I'm bisexual.
It's felt.
But if you're like in small town Idaho. Wow. Okay.
No one's gonna clap for you there.
Well, in other words,
no, but I mean, I think it's a big deal because it's like,
how much do we? At what point do we stop?
Are we supposed to say
saying,
get over the gay
no,
thing
stop.
already?
At what point do we stop saying
get over it? No one
we
cares.
celebrate to where you're normal.
Yeah.
You're just like both, boo boo.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're good. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we are definitely making progress.
Right,
where it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's and that's good.
But
That's
it's
good.
the straight people saying.
Yeah.
We don't care, which many of the motherfuckers do.
And see, that's my thing. I feel like them saying, well, I don't care. It's like, you do. We're like, I feel like some gay people are like, why do you have to like, like, let's
throw
just
it
try
in
to
our
integrate.
face?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that goes back,
It's-
and we
yeah.
can do that another time. But the
Another topic.
diversity groups in corporate America, like a lot of times, folks are like, "Well, why do
Ew.
we need those? Because those segregate." But like I said, for another time. But again, happy birthday to J-Lo.
Yes.
We
I
love
will
her.
Always love J-Lo. So, all right, well. That was a good Kiki, girls. Thank you for that.
This was a great Kiki. Loved it.
So thank you for listening to our podcast and kikiing with us today. A special thank you to our sound producer, Spencer.
Oh my god!
Don't forget
He's
to
got a mustache now.
Love
Yeah,
you.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear future episodes and visit our website, letstalkaboutgaystuff.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Let's Talk About Gay Stuff and on Twitter at Talk Gay Stuff. Also, don't forget to give our sister podcast, our Spoopy Podcast, a listen, which is available now. All right.
Wait, how do you find us on Facebook though?
How do you?
Because I'm
find us
old school.
on,
I need Facebook in my life.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you find us?
Let's Talk About Gay Stuff.
And then if you type it in,
Yeah, it's gonna be.
You go to search, let's talk about gay stuff.
Whoa.
Boom, there it
We need to
is.
see
did you hear that? America.
There's your cute little
Did you hear
face.
that? Mothers of America.
Screenshots. Oh my
Then your
goodness.
cute little face, like,
Okay,
Like-
what about
Yeah, we already said all those.
wait, no, what is it called?
Twitter.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Ingram,
same-
Laura Ingram
Same
Graham.
thing. Oh no.
Laura Ingalls
We
Wadler.
don't-
Okay, tell us
Pinterest.
about Instagram.
We already said all those.
Tell it again, please.
At Let's Talk About Gay Stuff.
Thank you.
All right, we're here.
We're queer.
Get used to it.